Hi, this is Glenn Walker from the Reading Comprehension 4 class, and my presentation today is looking at modifications and accommodations in the social studies classroom. First, I'd like for us to take a look at the definitions for a modification and an accommodation because sometimes these two terms can be misinterpreted. So I think it's good before we begin to take a moment to take a look at what they are, heading into looking at examples of different modifications and accommodations in a social studies classroom. So first, taking a look at modification. Modification defined as changes what a student is taught or expected to learn. And in the next couple of slides, I'll be going over some examples that you could use as a social studies teacher for modification in that area. And then for accommodation. Accommodation are changes that remove barriers and provide students with equal access to learning. And again, later in the presentation, I'll be providing some examples that could be used in the classroom. So first we'll look at modifications, and these are just a few examples that you as a teacher could use when teaching your classroom. So say for instance that you are providing instructions for students, and with these modifications keep in mind that you have a class with ELL students. So our first modification is when you are giving instructions. Make sure that you slow your rate of speech and write key instructions on the whiteboard. Also, if you're giving out printed material, stay away from complex sentences. Try to keep your sentences as simple as possible, but keeping the main idea of what it is the students are supposed to accomplish in a particular assignment. Now, the second modification is for the times that you use video in your class. Consider when you use a video that it comes from a source that offers subtitles. They could be either in English or Spanish because these are beneficial to ELL students. So a little bit of planning ahead of time, and also I recommend from experience, if you're going to use a video, to try to limit the amount of time that you're using video. Try a short period of time, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, just to kind of get them the main idea or the gist of what it is that you're trying to show them. The third modification, repeat or restate comments made by students during classroom discussions, and then make sure to write down those discussion points and comments on the whiteboard. And then the fourth modification, allow students to work with a partner or with small groups. So these modifications are just a few of the examples that you could use in your social studies classroom. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you a website you could go to where you could get some more information and gather some more ideas. Next, I'd like to move on to accommodations. And there are 4 examples here that I would like to present to you that could be used as accommodations in helping students still learn the same material. The first area is in the area of presentation. Let's imagine that you're teaching American history and you have a student who has dyslexia. You're teaching about the Civil War, and the expectation are the completing the assignments and taking the exams, but the student has dyslexia. So the option here is giving the student with dyslexia the opportunity to listen to an audio book instead of having to read printed text. So they're still responsible for completing the assignments, but the accommodation of the audio book helps the student work around her challenges. The second accommodation is what we call response, a change in the way a child completes assignments or tests. Great example here is if a student who struggles with handwriting, or they have handwriting that is illegible, you can give them a keyboard when they're writing essays or written assignments. So this would help them in that area. The next accommodation that I'd like to highlight is the accommodation of setting, a change in the environment where a child learns. So for instance, a child with ADHD can take a test in a separate room with fewer distractions. And then finally, in our accommodation examples, I'd like to talk about timing and scheduling. A change to the time a child has for the task. Example, providing extra time for homework, so for a child who has slow processing speed, giving them additional time to complete that homework. And as I mentioned earlier, if you would like some more examples or more information about modifications and accommodations, maybe in other areas than social studies, like English or math or science, I would recommend to you the Coloring Colorado website. The URL is posted here on the PowerPoint. You can check out some articles, videos, and some blog posts. Thank you so much for listening to today's presentation. Have a wonderful day.